Hey guys, and welcome to this week's episode of D3Live. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about something that a lot of you guys have been really asking about, is that what are some really good Cydia applications? And now of course there have been a lot of recent jailbreaks right now, and a lot of you guys are new first-time jailbreakers. And of course a lot of you guys are even older jailbreakers. So for everybody, I'm going to go ahead and go over my 5 top favorite Cydia applications. And now do keep in mind there are a lot more than just 5 good Cydia apps, and there are just tons of them. But I'm going to go ahead and just go over 5 of them that should give you a good start with Cydia. So the first one is going to be SBSettings. And this one is totally free. You can go ahead and just search it just go open up Cydia and search SBSettings. But basically what it allows you to do is just swipe your status bar, and it will pull down a dialog that will let you go ahead and do all kinds of stuff. You know, maybe shut off your Wi-Fi, toggle on and off 3G, adjust your brightness, and it even gives you some more options, such as giving you maybe like you're turning your battery into numbers. It gives you a lot of really different and really interesting options. So SBSettings, that's always the first thing I do when I jailbreak my iPod or whatever. That's always the first app I install because it's just so helpful. So definitely guys, go ahead and check it out in Cydia, SBSettings, and indeed just go ahead and check out the description of this video. I will just put all of them, all of the apps I'm about to talk about there, so you guys can go ahead and see exactly how they're spelled and all that kind of stuff. So the fourth favorite app is definitely going to be WinterBoard. Now WinterBoard is an app that allows you to go ahead and customize your device to your liking. It does all kinds of stuff as far as basically allowing you to download themes off of Cydia, as well as make your own if you like. That can totally customize practically every little bit and piece of the UI. So you can go ahead and do simple things like change the icons, you can change your lock screen, but you can go deeper than that and actually change the UI elements themselves. Now WinterBoard, if you're into that, now of course a lot of you guys, and myself included sometimes, you really don't want a really in-depth custom theme, and so you might not always need WinterBoard. However, it's definitely a really nice app to have to go ahead and really just customize every little bit and piece of your device. So the third app, and of course do keep in mind these aren't in any particular order, there's just 5 of them that I like. So the third app is going to be CyDelete. Now one thing about Cydia apps is that they're not quite as easy to delete. So one thing is that instead of, if you have an App Store app, you just hold it and then you press the little X. However, with Cydia apps, you need to go ahead and open up Cydia, find it in your packages, and then manually delete it and wait to respring and all that kind of stuff. However, if you download the application CyDelete, you can go ahead and just skip all of that, and they basically turn just into App Store applications. So you can go ahead and hold it and then just press the little X. It'll be deleted and you'll have no problems. So CyDelete is definitely another one of those apps that I always have to download immediately. It really does very, very helpful. So the next one I'm going to go ahead and talk about is a little bit more open-ended. I'm going to go ahead and talk about emulators. Emulators are really, really great on the iPhone, the iPod Touch, as well as the iPad. So there are a lot of them available. Everything from the original Nintendo, Super Nintendo, there's a Sega Genesis, Game Boy, pretty much any Game Boy, PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64, and several others. So basically any kind of older video game console that you maybe like, you have a lot of games on it, you can go ahead and download an emulator to your iPhone, your iPod, or your iPad. Now the thing is, a lot of these emulators do cost some money. Zotted is actually the best place to get them. I think that's how to say it, but that's the best place to get them for the most part because they have a lot of the emulators. But it's definitely really pretty handy. I love being able to go ahead and emulate all my favorite games on my iPhone or whatever. And in addition, a lot of the times you can go ahead and actually use a Wiimote. So if you have a Nintendo Wii, you actually go ahead and take the Wiimote, pair it with Bluetooth to your iPod or whatever, and you can go ahead and actually control the games through that, which in my opinion is a lot better actually using real buttons than just using the touchscreen. But at any rate, there are a lot of really great emulators available in Cydia, and that's some of the first things I always download are the emulators. So the last thing I'm going to go ahead and talk about is going to be iFile. Now iFile is a little bit of it's more of a utility than a great flashy app or whatever. But basically iFile allows you to go ahead and go through your device, actually go ahead and look through the file system itself and maybe delete stuff, change stuff. You can do all kinds of stuff without having to bother with using an SSH tool on your computer. You can do it all from your device. So again, this is a little bit of a more technical app. A lot of you guys probably won't use it very often. However, it definitely does pay off to go ahead and download it because you never know when you might need to change a little bit of a file or delete something, or if you're having a problem. There's all kinds of reasons why you might need iFile. Now the last thing, and I guess is kind of a little bit of an extra, is just a general SSH client. So as long as you go ahead and have it installed on your iPod, you can go ahead and use it through your computer. And this works pretty much the same way as iFile does. And it allows you to go ahead and maybe drop themes, and maybe if you make a custom WinterBoard theme, you can go ahead and drop that on your device, as well as you can go ahead and add your custom ROMs to whatever emulator. So there you go, guys. Those are my top applications for if you're first time jailbreaking my favorite Cydia apps. Now, of course, there are a lot of there are just way more. However, those should be enough to go ahead and get you started. Okay, so for the second segment of D3 Live, I'm going to be taking live questions. So as always, every episode of D3 Live is filmed in front of Blog TV, and we have a ton of people on here right now. So go ahead and just take some questions and just kind of hang out a little bit. What is better, Cydia or Icy? Definitely Cydia, in my opinion, especially considering that Icy has been kind of discontinued for a while. In fact, really, there's not a whole lot else as far as different sorts of application jailbreak installers. Pretty much all of you really can get right now is Cydia, which I don't know. I like Cydia a lot, but I think there's always room for competition, and so I would really like to see something else, especially since Rock is gone now, since Cydia bought it. When is the jailbreak coming for the iPod Touch 2G on 4.1? Great question. I get that dozens of times a day. The answer is soon. Now, GeoHot has previously said that it would be coming out in Lime Rain, but I don't think it will be. But I do know that for a fact that Green Poison and the Chronic Dev team, they will have it in Green Poison. So if you have an iPod Touch 2nd generation on 4.1, or you have an iPod Touch 3rd generation that's an 8GB model, do know that a jailbreak is coming for you. It's coming soon. I don't have an exact date, but I will make a video on it as soon as it's done. So hopefully that answered a lot of you guys' questions. Is there any possibility of an unlock on the latest baseband? Yes. Now, of course, if a lot of you guys updated, or I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people updated on 4.1 in jailbreak without realizing that there wasn't an unlock as well. Well, they are working on it. A couple of people who are working on it. The latest I've heard is that probably expect it sometime next month. But of course, an unlock is a lot of work, just like a jailbreak is. So again, I don't know exactly when it'll be. Most likely a month, sometime next month, assuming nothing goes wrong. But yeah, so I would guess probably like maybe a month and a half from now. No, is Green Poison already fixed on the? Is the Green Poison already fixed for the iPod Touch 2nd generation? No, it's not. There are jailbreaks for the 2nd generation, namely Snow Breeze and Red Snow. However, they don't. Snow Breeze sometimes works, and you need to go ahead and it needs to basically be an MB model. And Red Snow, it should work on the MC model. However, I've had a lot of problems with it, and most people have. So really, if you have an iPod Touch 2nd generation that's an MC model, or you have an iPod Touch 3rd generation MC model, which they're the same thing, then you're going to go ahead and need to wait for Green Poison to be updated. What firmware am I on? I'm currently on 4.1. I bounce around a lot on my iPods, mostly just to do videos on, when there's a new firmware out, I'll go up to it and make a video on it, then I might go down and stuff. So I'm always constantly moving. But right now I am on 4.1 firmware. What's the difference between Lime Rain and Green Poison? Good question. Basically, they're very close. A lot of people ask, which one's better, and really I have a hard time answering that because they both do practically the exact same thing. So they're both based off the exact same exploit, so they both work on the same devices. Now, there are a couple of key differences. Namely, Green Poison does not currently work on the Mac, and Lime Rain does not currently work on Linux. So depending on what computer you have, you might need to pick one. However, if you have a Windows computer that you just want to pick one of them, I'd probably lean toward using Green Poison just because the DFU mode instructions are just a little bit easier. But to be honest, there's really almost no difference. They both will jailbreak you just fine. The only reason to use one instead of the other is maybe if you're having problems. 5-icon row or 5-icon dock? It depends. I'm currently actually using 5-icon dock. It really just kind of depends on how you want to set up your device. Basically, with my iPod, I just like to have, there's 5 apps that, I'm always going to, so I just like to have them all on my dock. But, of course, that's the beauty of jailbreaking. You can customize it however you want. Retina or AMOLED screen? it's kind of hard to say. I mean, there are a lot of really nice looking screens coming out on the market today. Now I'm going to just say from personal experience that I love the Retina display. It is so crisp, it's so clear. I mean, you can really tell that when you're reading text. Like, you know, in iBooks, I've been doing a lot of reading in iBooks on my iPod Touch. You know, the text is very crisp and clear. However, these AMOLED and these Super AMOLED displays on devices such as, you know, the Samsung Galaxy S lineup, they're very nice looking. While they're not quite as good as far as resolution, the colors and the general just look at the screen is very impressive. So there are all kinds of different screens available today. You know, it's kind of hard to pick a winner, but I will say from personal experience, because it's the device I have, that I am very impressed with the Retina display. So anyway guys, that's it for this week's episode of D3 Live. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe. I do this every weekend, rather every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can go ahead and come on by. You can go ahead and subscribe and I'll make a video letting you guys all know when I go live. And you can come on by. We always, you know, chat, all that kind of good stuff, and you ask your questions live. So anyway guys, thanks for watching.